Welcome back to the Baschamania podcast. This is episode 134, and I'm really excited to dive into today's show. You guys seem to really like when Corby was on last time, so glad to have him on again today to talk world team trials and some other random news in wrestling. This show is brought to you by Attack. Attack is a new sophisticated training app with very cool gaming components for wrestlers and other high-level athletes with coaching and technique from stars like Jordan Burroughs, Sarah Hildebrandt, and Reese Humphrey, among others. I actually saw on his Instagram that David Carr was just logging his workouts today on Attack. And I think you're going to start seeing many more high-level wrestlers using this app very soon. Definitely go and download it in the Apple App Store today. If you listen to this podcast, you know how much I love this app. It's like having a coach right in your pocket, multiple coaches at that. It helps you focus on strength, endurance, nutrition, technique, mentality, agility, flexibility, recovery, reflection, so many aspects to being a high-level athlete, especially a wrestler. So be sure to download the Attack app today. It's ATAC. And give them a follow on social. They share a lot of valuable and unique content. I think you guys are really going to enjoy that. So download Attack. Thank you to Attack for sponsoring the show. Let's get Corby on and start talking some wrestling. He had a little vacation. How was your vacation, by the way?
It was great. It was great. We did 10 days in Alaska. So we saw from Fairbanks over to Denali, like maybe 100 miles south of Denali towards Anchorage. So we covered some land, did some cool excursions, took a helicopter. We landed on a glacier, like a 500
That's sick.
foot thick. Yeah, it was really cool. Found some running water on it. That was like, had a, wore out the ice into like 110 foot hole that you could have fit a car in, So that was cool. Saw an avalanche and heard one when we were out there, like a thunderstorm off Alaska's down the side. Yeah.
Alaska's definitely somewhere I want to get. I've heard it's absolutely beautiful.
It's so good. It almost seems fake. The scenery, it's so relaxing and calming, and it's hard to explain till you get there. And I was like, oh, whatever. And then you get there and you're like, wow, this is real. Yeah. So it was neat. So what's going on with you? How you been? I see a new shirt there on you, Carr shirt.
I am in the Gummy Bear Gang, David Carr. It's funny. It's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. There's been so many little things that have happened in the last week or so within wrestling that I love. And that kind of piqued my interest. And I always love talking about the little nuances of wrestling, the storylines. I'm never someone who cares about the technical breakdown. I think they're fun. When J.O. came on here and broke down his Olympic trials matches, it was one of the most popular episodes of the podcast yet, and I enjoyed it. I just was never a high-level wrestler. But being a marketing guy, the storylines really get me, the nuances of the sport. And this is one thing. Watching these athletes start to sell apparel has been so fun. Some of it, like this, was an instant buy, which, by the way, if you guys have not bought a David Carr Gummy Bear shirt or a sweatshirt, I've got the crew neck and the t-shirt. Both are money. So you have to go get one of those. I'm really excited to see where the apparel goes in the season. Right now, it's kind of like somebody's just buying something because you're a fan, or like David Carr posts something. I love this. I want it. I want to support him. Done. What I'm really excited for is when you think about the storylines in the college season and who is partnered with the right people to be able to capture something that happens and monetize that. Like having the That's What We Do Bo Nickel shirt the day after NCAAs, having the 665-pound deadlift shirt the day after Ferrari does the interview. I can't wait to see what happens even mid-season. Like if you're a wrestler and somebody ducks you and you do some kind of shirt, there's so many cool potential opportunities. I can't wait to see how this plays out this year.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And speaking of David Carr, I mean, what a great kid, right? I had a chance to work with him a little bit at Stalemate. He did some of the commentating with us, and then his father actually surprisingly stepped in with us when he had to go away to get Ian Parker ready. And I had had a little bit of interacting with David in the past, and just a great kid. I mean, and any company that's behind a kid like that, it's not, you don't have to worry about, right? When you sign some of these college kids, right? That's another thing. These companies, everybody's just going out and getting deals, and reputation and how you carry yourself matters. That
Big time.
that shoe's going to drop eventually too, right? Where someone's going to have somebody signed and then it's not going to go right. Where situation like David Carr, man, you got just a great kid, smile ear to ear, lives the right life, the right lifestyle. And I have not got one of those yet, but actually when we get off today, I'll get me a couple. I'm heading back out to Iowa in a couple of weeks, so I'd like to have me one of those.
David Carr called me a couple of weeks ago, and it was a Saturday afternoon. I was resting, had a crazy morning. I laid on the couch. I heard my phone ring, and I said, I'm not answering the phone. I don't care who it is. And like 5 seconds later, I'm like, well, let me see who's calling. And it was David. I'm like, okay, I'm picking this up. So we talked like an hour. He's one of the most genuine, kind-hearted people in the sport. And I try to promote people like that as much as I can, because I just think it's always great to promote good people. And I saw David Carr also signed with Spartan Apparel, which very interesting that Spartan Apparel has gone just for college kids. Yanni, Shane Griffith, and now David Carr, 3 studs. I like all 3 of them. I think that's great. I'm interested to see. This is the first time you're seeing right out of the gate multiple deals with apparel. You're seeing, David Carr puts out a gummy bear shirt. Now he's signing a deal. And on an even kind of bigger level, you saw Spencer Lee do a thing with Ironside. Then he did T-shirts with Barstool. Now Rudis comes in and announces, hey, we signed Spencer Lee, which is, when I saw that, the business side of wrestling never gets like coverage and hype, I feel like, as it should. But that's huge. Like when I was with Scrap Life, we went to pitch Snyder in Maryland. And I remember how bad we wanted to get him. And I remember just thinking, like, sitting through the meeting, like, this kid is so locked into Rudis, even before he was with Rudis. It almost felt like you were trying to get him away from a team when you're pitching him. And I remember just thinking, like, the Rudis brand is so strong. And over the last year, it has continued to get stronger. And now they got Snyder out of college, and now they're getting Spencer Lee in college. I think that says a lot. And it says a lot that there's a lot of apparel companies who want to squeeze. All right, the first shirt Spencer Lee can put out, we got to put it out. Spencer Lee put out shirts with Ironside, and then he did Barstool shirts, and they don't care. Okay, great. Is the squeeze over? Now let's focus on your brand for the next 10 years, like they did with Snyder. So I think the Spencer Lee to Rudis is absolutely huge.
Yeah, and he's respected and liked that brand for a couple of years now. So I thought he may go that way, but then again, with the Nike APS, I thought maybe, Iowa tied in there. I thought maybe he would go with them, but he's respected the Rudis brand and what they stand for people, in the circles. I don't know I think you were also aware of that he was, it's kind of almost like Kyle, right? Where you were kind of having to pull him away. I kind of feel like same thing with Spencer, Yeah.
And I think too, if you look at Spencer's career, I can kind of see the same future for his brand like Snyder's, which is he's a little bit more hands-off than a David Taylor or a Gable Steveson, and where he wants somebody to really partner with and say, here's my brand, put it on the platform and let's grow it, which is what they did with Snyder. Snyder's not sitting around tweeting, texting, Instagramming, whatever, all this stuff. It's Rudis. They're helping him. And I think that means a lot. Knowing Spencer and kind of his MO, I don't think he wants to be someone who's taking a photo in the gym, coming up with a caption. He wants somebody to help him. And I think Rudis has done a good job with Snyder to continue his brand and his presence without him contributing as much as some of these other athletes do. So I think that's interesting. And again, much like with the NCAA apparel we started talking about, I'm interested to see now how fast somebody like Rudis acts on something Spencer does during the season. They were pretty dang quick with Tamara Olympic champ apparel and sliders on the website. You went to the website that day, they did good. And there was little things like there was a product URL in her bio when she won the gold that was a couple months old. So I went to a page that didn't exist anymore. And Rudis very smartly did a redirect on the URL, redirected that product URL doesn't exist to their page, to her like main page. So you can tell they're with it. So I'm really excited because I think the more there's so many casual fans in wrestling, I think the more we bring those in, the more they'll really buy in. So if it's something where you can get a t-shirt, you can kind of engage a little bit more, I think it's going to be good for wrestling overall.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, like you said, who are, let's say Spencer goes out and gets, let's say he takes a kid down to his back 6-0, turns, and let's say he gets a tech fall in like a minute 30 something this year.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, right there you go. Right. I mean, 17-0, minute 30, Spencer Lee, anything on the back, people eat that up.
It's the Gable shirt. It's exactly what Barstool did, where it was like the comeback tee. That was brilliant. It wasn't just, I know one of the reasons David Carr did this gummy bear shirt is he didn't want to just do like his face or name on a t-shirt. He wanted to be something a little bit different. And I told him I love that. Like, I think everybody needs the logo tee, the face tee, the name tee, the whatever. Your fans definitely want to buy it. But I think you sometimes get a wider spectrum of fans and engage your audience more when you don't just do that. You start doing tees like that comeback tee, that was super cool. And I think if wrestlers can capitalize on events throughout the season, that's where I think NIL is also really going to come into play. And it's not just the endorsement deals and brand deals. Those are going to help. So I'm really excited about that. Really, really excited.
Yeah, me too. Hey, I'm hearing too, there could be I guess there's been talked about in the wrestling community. I guess there's some meeting or something. There might be a meeting taking place, I guess, and they're kind of looking for a place to have this meeting. So I don't know. You're tied in out there a little bit. Maybe you can host that meeting at Bash. Maybe you reach out to the parties and you can host it.
I'd be more than happy to. The number of rumors swirling and the number of curiosities at an all-time high. I'll say that. And speaking of meetings and parties, Eric Thompson to Arizona is huge. That was such a good get for Arizona. Eric Thompson, I think, is such an underrated coach. He's an incredible coach. I know every single person in State College is going to be disappointed to see him go, but, they're all sharing the same sentiment, which is this absolutely sucks, but very happy for you. Like, great move for you.
Yeah, that's, and, when people, what I like when you hear about a coach going here and a coach going there, whatever, and in general, in the wrestling community, you hear things and you never hear anything bad about Eric Thompson. You know what I mean? He's been around. He was in Iowa. He was in Grandview. He was at Lock Haven. He was at Penn State. And I know people in all those circles, right? And you never hear, you just never hear a bad word, right? It's character, right? So to get a guy like that that's going to be able to go and mentor your athletes is absolutely huge move. He's a great guy. I mean, Colton Schultz. Are you kidding me? I mean, Colton Schultz right now, to get him in the room, guy like that. Not just that, people don't understand. He'll help Brandon Courtney just as much. He can help little guy 25 technique too. He's a great coach.
Well, look at him.
That's a great get.
That's what he was doing at M2. You know what I mean? He's having such a positive influence on those athletes at M2. And I'm sure David Taylor and the rest of the M2 staff are going to miss him. They lost CENZO and Eric, two amazing guys kind of back to back. I'm sure they're going to feel that there. So,
definitely
awesome move for Eric. And that Penn State to Arizona to Penn State. I don't know why those two thoughts were back to back. The meeting,
right?
And a Penn State guy going to Arizona. On a different end of the spectrum, very cool to see. So Bobby Stevenson, Gable's brother, was announced as a recruit, one of the latest recruits at the WWE Performance Center, which is super cool. You got to wonder, is there something brewing with Gable and Bobby, brother tag team? I think Gable's going to be a superstar. So he's not one of those guys that will have to be in a tag team, but very cool to see what they do with that. And Jacob Casper last night at NXT. Like, my heart was so happy this morning because the conversations I have with Casper are just amazing. I love that kid. And to see him in the ring last night was so cool. I am so excited for his career and where that goes. And I love this. I know there's that crowd that like demonizes professional wrestling. I don't know why. I don't get it. I think having another outlet, having another avenue for amateur wrestlers to be able to leverage that athleticism and that skill set in a further development, a further arena, I think is incredible for the sport. I love it. So I'm really happy for both those guys, and I can't wait to see what happens next with them.
Yeah, I'm excited too. You know, there's a few wrestlers there, right? You got Casper, you got the Bobby thing that, you know, because Bobby was a police officer up in the Minneapolis area. So when I saw that, I was like, oh wow. So this, you know, he obviously had to step away from that. They take you down to the next school down there in Orlando, Florida, and you train. Actually, there was a kid who at the Madison Square Garden, he knocked off Vic Avery, who was the 3 seed at the time. Joe Areola wrestled at the University of Buffalo, and he's down there now. He's been about 3 or 4 months at the next school as well, training. He's like 200-pound kid, doing pretty good down there with Casper and those guys. So it's interesting. It's another outlet, man. Anything for these kids. Some of these kids like Casper or the Joe Areola, I mean, he started wrestling folk style when he was a kid because of, you know, WWF. You know what I mean? Like they watched it when they were kids. Yeah, and they went to practice. Right. They end up going to these practices because they think it's going to be that way. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute, we're not jumping off the top rope. And then they realize, oh, no, there's another. Yeah.
In middle school, I was a super hyperactive ADHD kid. And I was like, okay, the sports like I got to do something. I started middle school, jumped into volleyball, didn't really have too much fun. My gym coach was Bill Jackatow, legendary coach. So you should come wrestle. And I said, okay. And I'm like, you know, thinking WWE style, and it was night and day, but it was so fun. So I'm excited for that. Something I also love that I saw yesterday, Braxton Amos had a street named after him. They renamed a street from like Betsy Avenue or something to Braxton Amos Drive in Parkersburg, Virginia. Love that. Yeah. Absolutely love that.
And it has a stop sign. Not just an intersection you drive through and up there it is. No, you're stopping at the stop sign, looking both ways, and you're seeing Braxton Amos. I love it. Great. He was happy. I mean, talk about a good kid.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another one. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm one of those guys that, and I said it last year when we were doing these cards in October. When I saw him on some of these cards, I was like, this kid is going to have a heck of a time pulling to 197. And then we look at him at the Worlds and look at his body. There's not a lot there. That was a 213-pound kid we were looking at. You tell me where 16 pounds are at. So if he can get down and manage it, no doubt about it, he's gonna be a force to be reckoned with, and he'll be right there on Saturday night. But you know, hopefully, if he can't manage it, or if it's an issue, hopefully they put him on a shot clock, you know, and I mean a match, you know, and they only wrestle him so many matches and give him so many weigh-ins to keep him fresh. You know, they start right away November 1. Yeah. They're the first duel. November 1st, they have a duel. So I mean, we're less than 9 weeks away from that.
I'm so pumped for the college season. We've had so much senior level action. It's been a blessing to have so much action. And, you know, I guess that's a good segue into the World Team Trials. It's funny, as I was going through the list of people registered, and I'm thinking like how excited I am for not just the World Team Trials, but the fact that these guys are going to have a college season. I had like guys like Yanni. We're getting his website ready to go, and we're working on like his about page. And it's like longest active win streak in the NCAA. I'm like, man, I can't wait to see Yanni back in action. And a lot of these guys too. So World Team Trials next weekend. I caused a mini little tizzy last night on Twitter because I said I'm not going. I didn't want to go. What's that?
Are you a I mean, you're not a big anti-mask guy per
No.
se. There's issues, right? Like your wife, you run a big business, you're around a lot of people. Your wife is pregnant. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
And that's why, like, people who listen to this podcast know, like, I was on the fence with going, and I'm like, to fly from Rochester to Lincoln, you basically have to kind of waste the day Friday and Monday. And my agency is so busy, like, it's hard to work out of pocket Friday, Monday. You're backed up Tuesday. And so I was on the fence. Like, we have a 20-week ultrasound that Tuesday. It's like, do I really want to go? Kind of. And when I saw that Lincoln was requiring masks yesterday, I'm like, all right, I'm out. Like, it's just too much. And I saw some Twitter trolls coming at me like, well, if you go to the Bills game, dude, I live like 40 minutes from the stadium. I can go to the Bills game for 3 hours. Even if I have to wear a mask the whole time, 3 hours is a lot different than traveling all day Friday in one, wearing one all day Saturday, most of Sunday, most of Monday again. It's just too much. It's just not worth it. And again, I was on the fence. I like watching wrestling better at home. I like being able to work on stuff. People love our graphics, so I love putting our graphics out. I love doing different things. So that's easy. I love watching sports from home. The one main reason I was really considering going there was the people. To talk to people like you and go grab food, grab a glass of wine. Like, that's what I really love about wrestling tournaments. That's the big thing for me. Like, going to NCAAs, I like watching it on home, but you go to NCAAs because of the people. I'm usually in like a suite or a box for NCAAs, and you don't get nearly as good of a view as you do if you're watching at home, but it's the people. So I'm like, this is just, I can't do it. But I do think it's going to be absolutely great wrestling.
I'm the same way. I mean, to be honest with you, when you go to the event, a lot of times if you're working or even if you're not, you don't see everything. If I'm at home, I've got all 4 mats pulled up on 2 computers. I've got it on the big screen. I don't miss a match. If I'm there, you can only watch what you have to come home and rewatch it. So you're really you're watching it twice actually when you go. But like you said, you go for the people, right? You go to bump into the people. You go to actually feel it. You know what I mean? That's how I am, right? And I'm a people person. So I like to be around the people, talk to the people. And that's more what it's about. A lot of times, you know what? When you're there, you get caught up in conversations and talking to people.
And you miss it.
Yeah, you miss some things, right? You look back, you're like, wait, what just happened? We were talking about NCAA's 07. You know what I mean? So,
I know.
But that's the cool part. That's the cool part,
exactly.
Right? So, and I'm with you. Hey, going to the Bills game, sitting for one, you're outside, okay, in a mask, and in your area right now, it's not a huge uptick. Where in Nebraska, they want you to wear a mask. Why? Because they're having an uptick. Your wife's pregnant. It's not a responsible move.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's all.
And it's the whole thing. Like, I was on the fence with going. Initially, I wasn't even going to go because CENZO's a big Steelers fan. So CENZO, I was going to have, he was initially supposed to be in State College, come up here Saturday night. We'll go to the game Sunday. Well, then he, moved out to California. Now he's
got a job on you.
Right. And now he's going with Berger to the World Team Trial. So he's not even, so that's when I was like, oh, maybe I'll go. Did the safe sport, did the background check, got my media accreditation all set so I could really, cover and work the event in my way. And, it just didn't work out. So it is what it is. I think my wife will always tell me, go do stuff like this. She knows how much I love the sport, but I know there's a part of her that you're 20 weeks pregnant. You don't really want your husband gone for 4 days at a wrestling event if he doesn't have to be, so, I'm excited to. It's funny how the time works out because I'll be able to watch it all day Saturday, and then Sunday morning I'll watch it. I'll go to the Bills game, and then literally from the Bills game, I'll probably leave the Bills game early so that when the finals start at 4, I'm fully ready to go. But I'm excited, man. I think, again, I was going through the list of registrations this morning, and it's interesting too because I guess we'll start at 61. A lot of the matches you see aren't going to be like real matches. And what I mean by that is like you have guys at these catch weights where it's like Soriano, I've heard, has stayed really light.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that we're going to see a full size Soriano at 61. Or I heard Vito might be out now with COVID.
Yes.
He was a small guy. He was going to throw his hat in the ring because he'd rather compete than not compete. But I think at a weight like 61, I'm curious on your thoughts. I instantly think that there's a lot of sleepers in this weight class. The Joe Colognes, the Tyler Graffs, who kind of have made teams and get overlooked at times in the big crowds. I also think Seth Gross is extremely underrated. Extremely underrated. And if Seth Gross makes that team, I'm not at all surprised.
The one, Nashon is one that kind of pops out to me, right? Where he got big. I mean, he wasn't a full 65 by any means, but he was big. So now you're going to see a really big Nashon. That's one, if he's training right and he's in shape, Nashon's going to be, he's going to give guys fits. Joe Colon, I'm with you.
People forget that Nashon won Final X.
Yeah.
He had to pull out because of injury afterwards, but like he won. He's a dominant 61 kilo guy. And it's funny. I almost wonder if I don't even think those guys are dark horses, but I'm wondering if one of those guys who might not be. I mean, who would you say is the favorite at a weight like this? When you have Dayton Fix, you have Nick Soriano, you have these guys who are so good, but would you consider one of those guys the favorites?
I mean, if you look at like history and what's going on at the weight class, it's hard to overlook a guy like Joe Colon. Right. I mean, going in, if Joe Cologne's in shape, ready to go, he's been a dominant 61 kilogram guy in our country, right? So I look for Colon and Nashon, are, they're true. You look at this list, Fix, not a true 61, right? Yep. Soriano, not a true 61. Gross is a wild card here, right? Where we've seen Gross at 57. We've seen him, solid, but not be able to attack the whole time, right? Where now at 61, we could get a relentless Gross, right? Which is scary.
Well, I remember thinking about that, about Gross at the Farrell, thinking he looked really sucked down back at the Farrell in 2019. And he wasn't attacking like he does as normal, but he was savvy enough to get the, I think it was just back points against Soriano to win. Yeah. Like he had that savviness enough to win that match. And that's when, if he's at a full healthy 61, man, Gross is just, I think people are sleeping on him. I think he's been a little quiet and people are just sleeping on him a bit.
Soriano too interested. We haven't seen him in a while. Gonna be hungry.
Who's going to be in his corner? Will Perry be in his corner?
Yes.
So do you think that that will be like the time he's waiting to make a decision until after that? I heard what you said on Willie's show yesterday, you guys' first word, that, I agree with you. I think he's going to roll somewhere second semester. But we're in that awkward stage right now. Normally post-Olympics, people make their moves. This year, it's like a 2-month delay because it's going to be after Worlds. So it's like, I was talking to somebody yesterday about Dake saying, basically, I'm committed to Cornell through, the World Championships. Will Dake make an announcement after? Will Soriano make an announcement after? You got to suspect these things are coming. I'm very curious, what the dynamic is right now between Soriano and Perry. Very interesting. If Nick doesn't do well at the World Team Trials, does that propel a decision? If he does good, does that sway it? There's so many things in play there with that.
There are so many things in play. And that's why, I said on the show, I could see Nick not wrestling college, right? I think it's got to be the right fit. I think he's got a mindset of what he wants to do. And in order to get done what he wants to get done, I think he thinks he's got to be one place, and that's, if you're not able to get that meeting done, over there at your place, then we'll see. But no, I'm just kidding. Hopefully, no. If you can
Look
really
at
seriously, if
the
somebody could get that done.
The Soriano to Penn State stuff, I don't know if I'm just like hesitant to believe it because of how it went down when he left. I know that was a crazy time, I think, for Penn State. I have a hard time thinking he'll come back. I think Soriano and Gilman in the room would be an interesting dynamic.
For sure.
It's like, so I don't know. I see all the rumors. I see all the things about, brothers setting up meetings, and I kind of sit back and just take it in. Like, could that happen?
Well, my thing is this: I hope that, and I'm by the guys there and the way, and the human beings involved in the situation. So as I do a little bit, right? So I mean, there's no way that they would ever attempt to do this without talking with Thomas Gilman. It's just not how they operate. Okay. So if this does, okay, let's say this meeting takes place or this meeting is being talked about, whatever, my opinion is that they're not going to just all of a sudden bring Nick Soriano in and be like, oh, Thomas Gilman, here's the, you know what I mean? That's just not who they are. Right. So I think that if this happens, which, I mean, hey, I tweeted a month ago that people are going to be shocked. And this is what I was talking about. I had heard rumors. I had heard, things, and not just rumors, some pretty good sources. I don't just like to say things, you know what I mean? I'm just not that guy. I don't just pop off and say something. Right.
Yep.
So, I knew, and hey, I mean, hey, it's interest on both sides. Right. And if I'm Penn State, I look at it, if we could sit down and make some parameters, and I know everybody's like, oh, it's Soriano, they don't list that. Listen, hey, and I like Bob Soriano at times, he can be a good guy and he can also be a pain in the ass, right? But listen, this is the last chance for his son. This is it, right? So it's like, hey, man, you want to, I mean, I'm not blaming Bob, but it's like, you want to, keep dictating and keep being in control all the time, which is fine. But hey, listen, the clock's running out, buddy. You got one more semester left here. You know what I mean? So sometimes you just got to sit down. You got to mind your P's and Q's. You got to understand, hey, he's a businessman as well, right? So this comes down, it's business. You know what I mean? And sometimes in business, you got to shut your mouth. You know what I mean? And it'd be the best thing for Nick. You know what I mean? Like, and because you know what? The last thing you want to have is this not go right for Nick. This will be demons for this kid the rest of his life. This will ruin that. People don't understand. I mean, this kid's going to have mental health issues over this if this doesn't go. You know what I mean? And then it's not going to be so funny. You know what I mean? All the control and this and or that. Well, then the clock runs out. You don't get it done. You don't get to wrestle in college again. And now it's all these what ifs. And then you don't think in 10 years from now there's going to be the blame game when he gets a wife and a family that, Thanksgiving dinner ain't going to be a little bit weird. So everybody just stay calm. Everybody, Bob, if you're out there, you're listening, just look in the mirror, realize you got a son that's, a 1% talent, and just get it done, and let's see what Nick's made of. Let him, it's like, just let him get his vision quest. You know what I mean? That's what the kid wants. Step back for once. Let the kid do his thing. He's a grown ass man. It's just time. It's time. Somebody's got to say it. You know what I mean? It's just time to do it. So I don't know. Back to. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. I got a little bit. It just that really this irritates me, man, because we get in this sport and we get people, the sport gets a bad name at times, for these helicopter parents, right? And not that, I mean, hey, this guy, talk about caring for his kid. Nobody cares for their kid more than Bob Soriano. I'm not knocking the guy at all. He loves his child and he wants what's right for his kid. But there are times when, hey, man, soon, if I go to the bar, right, and let's say I get in a fight with some guy, right, and then the next night I go to the bar and I get in a fight with some guy. Well, hey, I might have ran into two pricks, right? But now if that happens a third night in a row, guess what? Sooner or later, I might be the problem. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we just got to sit back, we got to evaluate and then we move on. You know what I mean? And I think it's time for an evaluation process. That's all. And I think we have some very smart people involved here too. So I think calmer heads are going to prevail. I think something will get done. I think we need to see Nick Soriano in college wrestling. I just think we do. I think Nick needs it. I think the fans need it. And I think for Nick's future, the mental health, I think Nick needs it. And I just think people need to get it done.
Yeah. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how this World Team Trials, which is at the center of everything, plays into it. And I think a lot of people are going to be watching. So
100%. All right, let's go back to trials now after my little getting a little emotional there.
That's what this podcast is all about. Hey guys, real quick, want to tell you about our friends at Manscaped. Summer may be dying down, but it's still time to take care of your body and show off that hard work. It was a busy summer for our friends at Manscaped, who just launched their 4th generation performance package, the Ultra Smooth package, the Lawnmower 4.0. They've been up to so many great things. You know, we're big fans of Manscaped on this podcast. This Lawnmower 4.0 has a skin-safe replaceable blade, rechargeable wireless charging, LED spotlight and power status indicator. It's waterproof, has a travel lock. Ultra Smooth package has a crop exfoliator, crop gel, crop shaver. I mean, their products are just awesome. This is a Lawnmower 4.0 LED spotlight. Thing's great. Replaceable blades, so you can pop these on and off, change the different guard length. The Weed Whacker, I don't know if this is a 4.0. The Weed Whacker is incredible. This thing has, you know, little nose trimming, little ear trimming. Everybody should have one in their bathroom. Use promo code CENZO. I miss CENZO. He needs to come back on soon. Use promo code CENZO for 20% off at manscaped.com. That's CENZO. And you get 20% off any of this. You want to get a Lawnmower 4.0, 20% off. You want to get an Ultra Smooth package, 20% off. You want to get a performance package, 20% off. So get free shipping, get 20% off with promo code CENZO at manscaped.com. So that's 61. 65 is very interesting. You have Dean Heil, Lugo, Ironman, Pletcher, McKenna, Evan Henderson, Ashnault, Dom Demas, Yanni, and Henry Polymer.
Yep.
Very, very interesting weight. You know, I talked earlier that we're building a website right now for Yanni. I'm a little bit like biased, obviously, knowing I work with him on many levels. I think whether you're biased or have a relationship with Yanni or not, he's a guy that absolutely everybody knows. If he wins, nobody's surprised. He's Yanni. He's a multiple-time world champion. He's, you know, a 2-time NCAA champion. He has 1 loss in college. But sometimes it's not just about who the best is. It's about matchup of styles. And it's going to – I was kind of surprised. I don't know about you. I was kind of surprised that Ashnault was staying at 65. Initially, he was registered at 70. And I put a graphic out like, man, 70 is getting wild. And he texted me like, bro, like that graphic's getting a lot of traction, but I ain't going 70. It's just a mistake. I'm going 65. I go, wow. Okay. So yeah, 65. I mean, I like these guys, and I think a lot could be in the finals. I think it's going to come down to McKenna Yanni in the finals. That's just what my gut tells me. I could 100% be wrong on that. There's a lot of great talent in that, but something about Yanni McKenna finals sounds right to me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Ashnault's 2 different guys. I mean, 70, like, he's just not quite big enough for 70. 65's a good pull. You know, a 67 like a Greco weight. I mean, that'd be his perfect weight, right?
Yeah.
So you know, he's got to pull them extra pounds to, you know, I mean, you can't. I think he understands, right? At 70, man, it's all got to go, you know, right. He's not big enough. You know, the cut to 65 sucks, but it's not unbearable. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, hey, when you got to make tough decisions, you want to try to make a world team, and it's the right weight for him. And I think over there right now, you know, that's a preaching point, right? Yep. For the program as a whole, right? Guys, you got to get to the right weight class. This is the Big Ten. This is big boy wrestling, and we got to wrestle at the right weight classes, right? Last year we saw Rivera wasn't at the right, we had a little bit of fat bass going on last year, right? He was a little chubby, and he got tired,
bass.
right? Thick bass, baby. Yeah. So now, I mean, you'll see him at the right weight, right? You're going to see guys. So it's like, hey, if he's a coach now, right? He's a coach. So if this is what you're preaching as a program, coach, you got to do it too, right? So, and that's what he wants to do, right? You got to show, and that's what astronaut wants to do. You want to be a champion, you do what you got to do. So, and I think it, shows the rest of the guys on the team too. Hey, we got to get to the right weight classes. I like astronaut this weight. Ironman and Lugo. I mean, Lugo is tough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
very
tough, very positional, very, very savvy on the edge. He keeps his butt to the center well. Lugo is a wild card in this weight class, in my opinion.
You have a lot of wild cards. I think you have guys that when it comes down to a style matchup, excuse me, I think it was at the Rumble at the Rooftop, Lugo beat Pletcher 5-0. And Pletcher, it looks great. He's thick. He's strong. It's a good weight for him. So it's one of those things where it's like, man, what happens with some of these guys from a timing standpoint, and I believe the finals are best of 3, right?
Yeah.
So, who's ever in the finals, I'm here for any of these guys to wrestle 2-3 times. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be one of those fun weights. It's got such a different feel than 61 because it is so condensed, but it's going to be one of my most exciting weights. Obviously my relationship with Yanni, I'm pulling for him. Joey's a great guy. All these guys are great guys. We built a website for Astronaut a couple years ago, so I know him well. But yeah, so 65 is going to be interesting. 70 is just an absolute banger. 70, you got J.O., you got Zane, you got Green, you got Deacon, you got Pentelio, like
Berger, Brayton Lee and Berger as well, right?
Yeah. I'm interested. If J.O. is as dialed in as he was at the Olympic trials, I don't see anybody beating him. If he can translate that 65 to 70, I'm biased towards J.O. too. This is the problem with working with some of these guys. We built J.O.'s website. We built Zane's website. We built James Green's website. We've worked with these guys, and it kind of like distorts your perception a little bit because, Pentelio's the number 1 ranked guy in the world at 70 kilos right now.
I know. And he's like the 3rd guy you just mentioned.
Right. It's nuts. I think I saw like 6 guys that are seated. I think it's 6 guys that are seated top 4 in the world have to win spots at the team trials. One being Gable, who's not wrestling. So you have 5 guys. You have Shelton Mack. You have Tommy Gant. You have Nate Jackson, Alec Pentelio. I think there's one more. Who am I forgetting? I think there was
61. No.
Gant. Oh, Shelton Mack at 61.
There you go.
These are all guys who are ranked top 4 in the world because of they're seated. They're not really
their points.
Yeah,
their
points wise. So it's interesting. I don't know. Zane at 70. I'm excited to see that. I know when Nolf wrestled down at 70 a couple of years ago, he hated it. He was so distracted about his weight. He wasn't able to concentrate and focus like he normally does. And, when you're having fun and you're wrestling that Nolf style, that Zane Payne style, you don't want to think about weight a second more than you have to. And I'm wondering if this will free Zane up even a little bit. You're talking minor levels of improvement at that level because you're so good. The only reason Zane you go back to Pan Am's, he got caught and he lost that match, which had an unfortunate series of events after that, being U.S. not qualified. If Zane doesn't get stuck at the Pan Am's, qualifies the weight, everything could look different. But Zane at 70, dangerous guy.
I'm wondering if sitting at trials in Texas and watching, I never I don't know. There's some guys you think, maybe the weight cut. That never popped into my head with Zane that, hey, maybe it's the weight. Maybe he's too big, right? When, I mean, it probably should have. You know what I mean? From he was at 49, right? I mean, he finished his career at 149. Cutting that few extra pounds. I didn't look at him as a huge 65 pounder, but now, his pace wasn't what it was. His attack rate wasn't what it used to be. So I guess, hey, it probably was weight. And now, 65, 70, we're talking 11 pounds, right?
Yeah. So that's 60, I just Googled it. 65 kilos is 143 pounds.
Yeah. That's down 6.
Yeah.
From his college weight. Yeah. And you just don't look at Zane as being big even when next to other guys, he just didn't look huge for the weight, right? It's like Ryan Deacon looks big no matter what weight he's at. He could go up to, for some reason, he looks hollow no matter what. It's insane, right? And you talk to him and I'm like, hey, you're going up this year. No, I'm going 57. It's like, wow, how? He's like, it's not even that bad of a cut. I'm not that big. And he's really not as big as he looks. It's just the
how about Pantelio?
Type.
Pantelio looks huge.
Huge. He looks huge.
Like Zane pretty much got the best of him throughout college.
Mm-hmm.
And last year beat him at the NLWC event with a late takedown, I believe. So it's like you start thinking, like, what can some of these guys do? And obviously, the respect you have to give James Green. I think he's a 5-time world teamer. Like, you have to put him right there because he's been the guy for so long. Until he loses, you can't count him out from not even being in the finals, but winning. Again, going back to like whoever, like when I said if Seth Gross wins, I wouldn't be surprised. Or if Yanni wins, I wouldn't be surprised. James Green wins, everybody's like number 6. Nobody's stunned by that. You have great guys in that weight class, and I think it adds to the legacy James Green has built of making all these teams. I'm saying this loosely without knowing exactly who he beat every finals, but I think this might be his most impressive win if he makes this team. Yeah, I don't think he's had to wait this deep to make a team yet.
No, and to me, I'm one of those guys that, hey, when you started off going with guys, and to me, he would be my pick right now.
Yeah.
Just because until somebody beats him at this weight, the problem with James is we keep seeing him at other weights, so then we get this different perception.
Distorted. Yep.
We get our thoughts get distorted, and he's the best 70 in our country for the last 5-6 years, and it's not even close. You know what I mean? He's been dominant with it. So to me, until I see somebody beat him at 70, he's my guy. And I think J.O., if J.O. comes, J.O.'s in shape, and J.O. keeps his attack rate up and doesn't get a 3-point lead and decide to, coast a little bit and stays on J.O.'s offense, he's going to be really hard to beat. But that, we don't see sometimes J.O., but it's weight a lot too with J.O., right? So I want to see a 70 J.O. with an attack rate for 6 minutes, a high attack rate, and he's going to be hard to beat if he can do that. Deacon too, all these guys. You could, if you told me that J.O., Zane, Green, Pantelio won this weight, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. If Ryan Deacon won the weight, I think I would be a little shocked if he took a 2 out of 3. It wouldn't shock me to see him in the final. It wouldn't shock me to see Ryan Deacon pull some upsets and make the final. No, I wouldn't.
I'm just looking back to the Bill Farrell. When they wrestled James Green, it looks like most of his matches he beat J.O. was by 1 point. So it's going to be interesting to see if James Green if let's just say we get a James Green versus J.O. match. If J.O. can attack, and J.O. has arguably made more leaps and bounds than anybody in this country over the last 2, 3, 4 years. He has jumped leaps and bounds and improved so much. He's aging like a fine wine. So,
he is.
Again, has James Green aged as well? We don't know because we're seeing him at these different weights, and it's hard to tell, So, yeah, I'm with you. I think 70 is going to be Very, very exciting. I mean, just imagine the semis. I don't know how the heck they're going to see this, but no matter what they do, the semis are going to be like finals matches. Like they're finals caliber all day.
100%. I mean, it's going to be great. That's one thing about these small little tournaments like this is, I mean, right out the gate, round one, you know what I mean? You're going to get some hammers, and going to the next weight, 79. This is the deepest, craziest, most insane weight
ever.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, this is like, if I didn't go through and count, how many All-Americans we have.
Yeah, guys, for those listening, I'm saying that loosely. I don't actually mean it's like the deepest weight.
No, I get it.
It is insane.
It is. I mean, yeah, from Hayden to Burroughs to Gant, Marsteller, Ringer, Luwan, Wick, Starocki, Nolf, LaValle, Aymar, McFadden, Massa, Skatska, Ashworth, Mohammed McBride, who made a U23 team, who actually Mohammed McBride was just named the volunteer assistant at West Virginia for Tim Flynn. And talk about a kid. Now this kid enrolled at the University of Buffalo at 16 years old. Okay.
Yep.
He couldn't wrestle until he was 18 for NCAA rules. He graduated college at 19 years old.
Wow, I didn't know that.
At Buffalo at 19 years old. This kid is he's a Muslim kid, grew up in Buffalo, amazing kid, great family, one of the most respectful kids you'll ever come across. He's Tim Flynn nailed it with him to mentor young men. He'll help his upper middleweights, and just another guy in the weight there that people probably forgot about when you're looking at how deep this weight is, that he made a U23 team. So this weight is ridiculous. I mean, who would you pick? I mean, obviously people are gonna say Burroughs, right? But
I think Jordan's a good friend of mine. I'm beyond biased in saying I think Jordan takes this weight. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, him and Aymar were ridiculous at Final X, an amazing series. My concern is we haven't seen that Aymar since that match. 2 years. We have not seen that Aymar literally since then. They were supposed to wrestle on a flow card a couple months ago, and it turned out Aymar basically couldn't make the weight.
We don't know what Aymar we're going to see here. We have no idea what Aymar we're going to get here.
Correct. And that's why it's like, there are so many. What does Carter look like? What does Nolf look like? These guys that are hungry, that are, and again, even with like Nolf, I feel like we're distorted. We saw, Dake destroy him in the Olympic trials. Mm-hmm. But what does Nolf look like at 79? What is, Nolf is an amazing, amazing wrestler. What does it look like? What are these wrestlers that have started, like the Evan Wick, who have a change of scenery out in California? What does it look like to see some of them in new training habitats?
Marsteller, right? Marsteller's kind of been dabbling back over there with Colat, right? Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, right? What chance do we see? Pat Downey registers at 79 kilograms, right? I mean, he didn't show up the street league, had some issues. But then he refocused. I think he realizes he may have dropped the ball, and then he registers at 79. Will he make 174? I don't know. And I know he's been training.
And a guy who doesn't have much to lose on the surface is a very dangerous guy in life in general. You throw somebody like that, Downey's biggest opponent is himself. It really is. Mm-hmm. He seems like he can't get out of his own way. And I don't understand it. I don't know. People have a lot of different mental health stuff going on. He asked me to come on this podcast about a year ago or so. And I said, maybe we'll see. And then like a couple months later, he blocked me on Twitter. So I have no clue what goes through some of these people's minds and how they think. But I do know.
Do you want to have him on?
Not after he blocked me.
Okay.
If I did something to him and he tells me, hey, you're a jerk, X, Y, and Z, fine. You block me for no reason. And I'm not somebody on Twitter that's slinging like that's spewing garbage and trying to knock people
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
You know,
I get
so
it 100%.
but
I get it.
my point being, like, you throw somebody like that in a weight who Downey's had some success. He has. I mean, he's made a world team. And I know when he made the world team, it wasn't the toughest of circumstances, the way it played out with David not being able to make the team. And I think guys like Bo not knowing that and not being able to go 86, whatever. I get that, and I'm factoring that in, but he's still a dangerous wrestler. And all these guys in one weight class is nuts. It really is.
No, if, like you said, you said, he's his own worst enemy. And, just imagine, think about this. He goes and wrestles, and, David gets hurt. So he's our second best guy in our country, right? So he goes and makes the team, right? And we all know, everybody hears the stories. I mean, never does anything right, doesn't train right, doesn't live the right lifestyle, and he still, imagine what that guy would be like if somebody could get him to hone in lifestyle, focus, mind. He would be like, we'd be talking like he beat everybody in our country. You know what I mean? Like he's right there doing everything wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I know everything wrong, not sleeping, not training, not this, not that, shows up still second. You know what I mean? I mean, the talent is unbelievable. I wish he could just get it together. It would be great. I love, like, kids like that, talent, so talented. You just hate to see, because right? I'm 47 years old, and I'm okay with, what I mean? I don't have those demons, but I know, and I've been around this sport a long time, and I know a lot of kids, and I know people who struggle, and it's caused alcoholism, it's caused divorce, it's caused, you know what I mean, down the road, where these people don't deal with things. And then all of a sudden they're 27, 28, 32, 33, 34, and it hits them, and it's a real thing. And people don't realize it and don't talk about, we're all in this sport, and, who wins, who got their hand raised. Oh yeah, good for him. And we're all cheering. But then people lose track and sight of these guys, right? I try not to. If I build relationships with somebody, I try to, stick with them. And so, when you hear these things, and you just try to do what you can to help someone else so they don't go through the same thing that is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to happen. You can't keep running. You know what I mean? Like, sooner or later, it's going to hit you. You got to look in the mirror. You can't keep brushing your teeth with your eyes closed. You know what I mean?
And I do think it's so important to be empathetic. I mean, I gave my life to God years ago because I know I'm a self-sabotager. I know I'm somebody who, like, I'll put myself in bad situations. It's just, as humans, we're hardwired. We do things that are not in our best interest, and then we're surprised by why we did it. Just over and over. We'll do something, and that's how I am. I'll do something like, why did I do that? Or why did I say this? So I know years ago, that's why I became a Christian. Like, okay, God, I need you to guide me. I need you to lead me, push me in the right direction, because I know I can't count on this person or that person, whatever. So I think we all need pushing. We all need guidance. I do hope Pat finds that. I know that I'm never one to jump on, like, especially when Twitter becomes a cesspool and jumps on people. Look at you put yourself out there, you're going to get ridiculed from people. There's no doubt about it. But, I do think it's important to have empathy. And when I see something, you and I have talked about it, your heart kind of hurts more, because you're not in a place of like, oh, good for him, he got what's coming to him. You say, oh man, I remember years ago, I heard a pastor, Chuck Smith. It's a long story, but the end of it was this girl who was beautiful girl, so much potential, homecoming queen, everything. And she got hooked on heroin and died like 3 years later. And he sat with meetings with her, and long and short of it is that, like, wasted potential is always tragic. And that stuck with me for like the last 10, 15 years ago from when I heard that. So when you see wasted potential of any kind, it hurts. You really hope that, and it's not even just like, I'm not even just talking about guys like Pat, even with injuries, even with stuff that's just like, so much of wrestling is health and relevancy and timing. These guys being healthy, you start talking about the world team trials, guys, who's healthy, who's had COVID restrictions, who's had this, what's everybody going to look like after this, last year of not having world championships last year, having Olympic trials, changing your body. It's going to be interesting all around. I don't want it to sound like we're picking on Pat because I'm not.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right, let's get back to 79. Who you like Burrows? Who would you think out of this mix? Okay, I like Burrows as well. Ringer is an interesting one, right? I mean, we haven't seen Ringer in how long? Ringer's never lost to anybody in this weight. Okay.
Yep.
Ringer only has a handful of domestic losses.
Like 5, I think.
Yeah, and none of them are to these guys. Who would you think sees Burrows in the finals of this weight? I mean, who would you pick?
Being a Nittany Lion fan, I'd love to say Null for Carter.
Uh-huh.
You know, I think it really depends on. I feel like I'll have this is maybe obvious, but I feel like I'll have a great answer for that Saturday morning.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Like, what does McFadden come in looking like? You know, does Imar? The last time I got excited for an Imar match, it didn't happen.
Right.
You know, and he had a surgery. His shoulder surgery was the first surgery he's ever had in his career. And he hasn't been able to get back to that place. I hope he does. So I don't know. I'm really torn.
Gant.
He's top 4 in the world seated right now.
Here's another one that's interesting to me. A kid that is probably not even a probably. I'll take that back for sure. One of the most technical, savvy, and freestyle wrestlers in this group is Massa.
Now,
all right.
I saw he registered at 70. Did that get changed? Because I didn't even know he was wrestling 79.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going to go 79. That's what I've been told.
Or he was registered 74. Sorry.
Yes. He was registered 74, and you couldn't have been. Right. So, yeah, he's going to go up, which is 174, which is probably, the weight we'll see him at in this college season. So that'll be interesting, right? Because he's really high level freestyle. He's been there and beat a lot of these guys. So he's a guy to watch out for. It's just we have a lot of unknowns, right? We don't know what Imar we're going to get. We don't know what Ringer we're going to get, right? We just don't know, right? We don't know McFadden's
talent. We've also not seen Burrows at 79 in the tournament ever. I'll give him the edge because he is Jordan Burroughs, but we've never seen him wrestle in the tournament at 79 kilos.
And you know what another thing is about Burroughs too, is everybody, just because he was a 74 for so long, everybody listen, wait, that weight is not easy for him to make.
No,
that is a weight cut. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of dieting, a lot of working out. I mean, that's not an easy cut to him. So for him right now at this point in his career to get those 11 pounds on his body, right? Yeah. And we could see what I want to see is what I've noticed, and he's gotten older. Okay. But with the weight cut, them quick twitch muscles, just right. That explosion and that fire, that quick fire, right? He lost a little bit because, he's getting older, the weight cut. Now I want to see at 79, are we going to get the level change, the hand fake, the left, the double? Is the double going to come back now? That's what I want to see. And I hope it does, because I'm a firm believer in, hey, he didn't lose that speed yet with age. Okay. I think he's lost it from weight cut and quick twitch muscles aren't firing. So I'm thinking now plus 11, we may get I want to see the level changes and knee hitting the mat, the head fakes and getting back to his doubles. And if we see that, he could run. If Jordan Burroughs shows up, he'd run through this weight.
Yep.
He could run through this weight because I don't think athletically, if he gets that level change going and then body fakes, it'll these guys, athleticism, they're not going to be able to,
No, I agree.
Deal with him. So that'll be interesting. And if we get that, Jordan, and then the move, right? Like, what Jordan are we going to see?
Yep.
Right? I mean,
Philly Jordan.
Is that what McFadden are we going to, is that McFadden, is he jumped the level, right? And
how about go for back, like Jordan too? Jordan, who do you have as a training partner in Nebraska? Berger, a lighter guy versus Mark Hall in Philly?
Right. and McFadden,
right?
Some bigger guys there, and
Yeah.
they got some guys on their roster that are solid. You know what? They got a guy, Doug Zaff, who's going to make some noise this year at Penn. That guys aren't. You know, he came in, thought he was going to be a 33 kid.
He was runner-up at the World Team Trials, right? Junior World Trials.
Yeah, and he's going to be a 57 now. Big kid. He's gonna be good, which is going to put Artolona back at 49, which is where he needs to be anyway. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. And we talked about Jo too. What Jo we're going to see, right, with a training environment change, you know, where he's up there now, right? So, you know, it'll be interesting. 92. What do you think of 92?
92 for me goes Jaden. So
yeah,
it depends on. I think Jaden wins this weight. You know, much like Burroughs, he's the guy. Much like James Green, he's been the guy. He's not on. He lost to the scale at the Olympic trials, you know, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just he didn't lose a match at the trials and say, "Oh, how does he stack up to so and so?" We saw. I think so. I think Nate Jackson beats Kyvan, and I think Jaden beats Nate. I think that's how the top three unfolds. But do Jaden and Nate get seated on the same side? I don't know. Those are the three guys there at that weight. Mike Mock, like, I don't know if it's just because I love that kid, but he can do some damage. That kid can just turn it on and go. But I think Jaden is my clear favorite to win. I think Nate just beat Kyvan, right?
Yes. And I like Moore too.
Colin Moore is a stud. I
think Moore could knock some of these guys off. And you know what? Jaden's going to make history as well if he makes weight. I mean, we've never seen a guy blow his last weigh-in. He blew weight. Now he's down 11 pounds. Right? You don't see guys blow weight and then down 11 pounds. Right? So it'll be interesting. I mean, he'll make it. He'll be fine. But it's just interesting, right? That you know, a guy misses weight and guys, you know, think, oh no, he misses weight, and then now he's going to go down 11 pounds. You know, so he's trimmed down. I saw a picture of him the other day. Looks great. I mean, doesn't have any fat. I mean, it's just he can transform his body in a matter of, you know, 4, 5, 6 months like no one I've ever seen. He can put that size on and he can shrink the body down. It's amazing. He's a pro at it, that's for sure. So yeah, I'm with you. I like Jaden, and I think it's probably Nate unless they're on the same side, right? Which I don't know how that's gonna work out.
I think the seeds go Jaden and Nate 1-2. I'm assuming Jaden's the reigning world champ. At 92. I'm assuming you give him the 1 and you give Nate the 2. If they switch it gets interesting because Nate could be the 1, Jaden the 2, Kyvan the 3. So
yeah,
I don't know.
And it could be real interesting. You know, I mean, a guy too in there that you know, Dudley's in there, which I mean,
Hidley's a wild card too. Hidley's both of them. Both brothers, they're wild cards.
They are always, right? And Zilmer's in there too, which I mean, Zilmer's going to beat one of these guys. No doubt about it. Zilmer's tough.
Very tough.
Zilmer's going to beat one of these guys. And Willie Miklas is in the field as well. Yeah. So
you have some great, you know, the weight isn't as deep with the names like 79 is, but there's a lot of talent at that weight.
Right. I mean, I just mentioned Willie Miklas and I mean, at the end there, and I mean, Miklas is a 4-time AA, I believe.
I think he was too.
Yeah, I believe Willie Miklas is a 4-time All-American. So, I mean, that's a solid weight as well. And Foster's in the weight too, right? Drew Foster's coming up to 92. So, you know, we'll see what happens with that. And then heavyweight.
That comes down to Mason and Gwiz, I think.
Yeah, I think the other guys, you know, the wild card's always Dom Bradley, right? Yep. Can Dom slow a match down, get a push out, get a score, and beat you, you know? So that's one that, you know, Mason did well against them. in, last time. And, Dom's getting a little bit older. These
and
guys pick up the pace and he can't hang,
Yeah. No, I think the same thing. I think that weight just isn't that deep also. I think you have Gable that, people weren't sure, is he gonna continue or not? And I think aside from that, that's how heavyweights kind of always been. We've had like one really good standout, and then some guys that are like 2, 3, 4 that kind of just hang out in those spots and switch order and stuff. But yeah, Pantaleo tweeted out a couple of weeks ago, like, mark my words, Mason Paris ready to go, world champ, this, that. So, I know he's hungry. So it's going to be interesting. That'll be a great, if that's the final series, I'm here for that. Best of 3 series.
Oh, that's going to be great. That's going to be amazing. Actually, I can't wait. I'm going to be going on Friday. I'll get in there on Friday to Lincoln. It's weird because the scheduling and the planning on USA Wrestling probably wasn't the greatest.
I know.
Nebraska's a home football game. Okay. Yep. Saturday. Okay. And the stadiums are like right next to each other. So the parking for the event is going to be a mess because all the parking downtown is going to be for football, so it's going to be at least on Saturday. So it's going to be a mess, staying downtown, within walking distance. So got that figured out. But yeah, it's going to be, I've never been to Lincoln. So I'm flying to Des Moines on like Wednesday. I'm going to I'm going to meet up with Zach from Stalemates. And then I have a friend of mine from Chicago flying to Des Moines on Friday morning. And then we're driving out to Lincoln. It's 3 hours. And then then we're going to drive back to Des Moines and both fly home from Des Moines. It was just easier to get in and out of Des Moines than it was Lincoln.
Yeah.
And it's a 3 hours, but like it's a 3 hour drive. But actually, you know what? And rental cars have been expensive, but for some reason I got a rental car from Friday to Monday for $140 from the airport.
Wow.
So that I am still saved. You know what I'm saying? Like the flights were more than 140 more to Lincoln. So, and then I can do some stuff while I'm in Des Moines. I can meet up with Zach. I may jump on a happy hour with Hager on Thursday and then go out
the Felters Fact
Lincoln.
Show.
Yep. The Felters Fact Show. Yep. We'll jump on with him and see if I can't, razz him a little bit. I'm trying to drag him out there to Lincoln, but I don't know. He's got who's number one, Jezeroga and McGowan the following weekend are wrestling. Who's number one, and him and TJ are going out to coach Jezeroga. So, hey, and then you know what? We'll get going. We'll do some more of these, but we got big. I mean, we're a little bit of ways away here. We're probably about maybe a month, 5 weeks away from big recruiting weekends, right? We got October 8, 9, October 15, 16. Those weekends are huge recruiting weekends for football across the country. Iowa's having a bunch of kids in, Ohio State kids in, Penn State kids in, North Carolina kids in. So as that gets closer, we'll maybe do an episode on that.
Yeah,
maybe who's going where.
I think too, talking about what happens after the World Team Trials, we might have to do an episode based on what happens, you know, and like, I don't know the women's side enough to preview it, but I know there's going to be a lot to talk about it after.
Oh, yes.
Like 53 kilos, like Peyton Preston, I think is going to be an absolute star. You have so many studs. 53, I think is going to be wild, but I think it's going to be fun to talk about women's after the event. And I also think a lot of the storylines that could develop from who wins and what happens, I think that could be a fun time too, with what ends up happening with Soriano, what happens with all these guys. I think it could be a fun show.
Yeah, no, and I'll be one to admit, until I'd say 2 years ago, I was totally not, I wouldn't say women's wrestling at the high level, but like the youth, you know what I mean? It just didn't it didn't catch my eye. I wasn't like watching it. Same. And it didn't catch my eye. It just, not that it was boring. I don't know. I just didn't pay attention to it. Right. And then over the last couple of years, I kind of started to. This year at Fargo, the first session I left, it was just been a long week. So then I started paying more attention to it. and standing some mat side at Fargo.
Yep.
And I really changed my outlook on it. And I'm all in. I mean, I want to start actually, I want to be able to myself as a wrestling person, be able to come on these shows with you. Like we just broke this down, and I want to be able to do that for the women. And I want to be able to do that for the cadets, the juniors, and me as and that's my goal. I'm learning, I'm getting there. Because I think it's only fair, right? I mean, if I was a girl wrestler out there and I got on these shows all these times and they're listening and watching and they don't get a lot of love, you know what I mean? And I think we need to do a better job of it. Myself personally, Willie, Flow Wrestling, Matt's doing a really good job with the girls, actually. But, there's outlets out there where it's like, hey, we got to do better, right? We have to do better. They're going to save our sport, all right? We deal with Title IX and D1, and as we start growing in women wrestling, listen, if you're a university right now and you're not looking at that after the Olympics, I mean, this is going to catch on, and this is going to be big, and they're going to save our sport. I mean, with Title IX, I mean, you start adding 30 girls to a university, right? We have 30 girls wrestling. We have 30 guys wrestling. Okay. Now we're not going to have to worry as much, and they deserve it. They work hard. I tell you what, you go around to camps for 13 and younger. You can't get those boys to pay much attention. Those girls are all eyes and ears. I've been hearing that. They are. Seen it. All eyes and ears. They want to learn.
I think too, I made a note of it a couple times in this podcast. I think the women are also giving us a lot to talk about, which is, I think, really what separates them from Greco is that they really started winning, and there's so many storylines. If you don't think if Kennedy Blades goes out and makes his world team, everybody's talking about her all week long, you're nuts. She could win 3 world championships potentially this year. Nobody on U23s is going to stop her. She stays healthy, check the box, that's done. So if she makes this world team, which I think she will, and by the way, for those listening, if you haven't listened to the last episode with Kennedy and Izzy, fantastic conversation. Like, Kennedy could make 3 world teams this year and win 3 world championships. That helps the sport because that gives you something to talk about. When you have more to talk about, one of the reasons we talk so much about men's freestyle, aside from just following it, and I've told that story 10 times in the podcast, but there's so much to talk about. As the levels of talent and the depth grows in the women's side, and as you have performances where you're winning worlds, you're winning Olympics, you're winning junior worlds, those things give media outlets more to talk about, and that's what draws in the fan. Because even if you or I care about it and want to talk about it more, there has to be substance for us to pull the audience in. I think getting us at this media level intrigued is not that hard. Engaging the fan who might not care as much, that's where you need the great storylines, the Kennedy Blades, the Blade sisters, working those things in, I think is going to help the sport so much. And they're doing such a good job of branding themselves, of winning. The future's definitely bright for women's wrestling.
They're so enthusiastic. They're so excited. They're so positive. You know what I mean? Just as a whole, as the women, I mean, you interview them, you see their interviews top to bottom. It could be the 6th place girl to the champion. They're all, they're excited. They're enthusiastic. They're excited for the future. I think it's great. And I think I think we're going to be, this is going to take off. We're going to be dominant. In women's wrestling in the next quad up until the next few Olympics, we're gonna be dominant. We're gonna be a force to be reckoned with. We're gonna be challenging Japan and the world stage, and it's gonna be amazing. And as we keep growing and the numbers are starting to churn, and the more states are getting involved, and the numbers are going up and up and up. I mean, they're like 30-40% jump a year in girl wrestling participation. You know what I mean? So it's a growing sport, and they're gonna do great things and continue to do great things. So
I agree.
Where else you want to go? We've been on quite a while. What you got going on today? A lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think this might be the cutting segment. But
Okay.
this was a great conversation. Let's definitely maybe hop on after the World Team Trials.
Yeah.
We'll kind of go through what we thought would happen and see how it played out. I'm excited for that.
Definitely, me too. And you enjoy your Bills game, and
I'm pumped. Bills Mafia.
How you think they're going to do this year?
Super Bowl champs.
Every year?
Yeah, I think their biggest hurdle this year is going to the number one favorite to win the Super Bowl right now is Mahomes and the Chiefs. And then behind that, I think to make the Super Bowl is the Bills and Josh Allen. So it kind of sucks. We're both in the AFC. It's almost like potentially the AFC Championship game is going to be more difficult to win than the Super Bowl. So we'll see. But that's Super Bowl champs.
Awesome. Well, I hope so, man. I mean, look at Milwaukee. I mean, Milwaukee Bucks. They won the NBA this year, right? So, yeah. I mean, that'd be great for Buffalo.
I'm here for
awesome.
it. I'm definitely.
Oh man, could you imagine that? I mean,
no,
the crazies in that place. Oh my gosh, they better be ready if they won. Oh yeah, my goodness.
That would be a wild week. Wild week.
You'd have to shut down.
You would. All right, Corby, thank you for once
buddy.
again making the time. We'll do this again soon.
All right, talk to you.
Awesome, man. See ya.